had to choose one of these four, it may not be your absolute favorite, but if you had to choose from these four, what would you choose? All right, right now it is a tie between Chick-fil-A and Whataburger. Oh, Chick-fil-A just took the lead. You would choose Popeyes. That's okay, Stormy. If you had to choose one. Oh, Whataburger took the lead. Whataburger has 9 votes. Okay, I'm going to give 30 seconds. 30 more seconds. If you have not placed your vote.
Whataburger.
What'd you say?
Whataburger. Isn't it meant to be spelled Whataburger?
Whataburger is your vote?
No, my vote is McDonald's, but
okay.
Isn't Whataburger spelled Whataburger?
I think it's spelled like this. What a burger. Alrighty, so it looks like Whataburger wins with Chick-fil-A coming in a close second place. So,
only 2 people like Taco Bell?
I guess. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started for today. So our word of the day is inequality. So I want you to tell me in the chat everything you know about an inequality and what is the difference between an inequality and an equation. And for those of you that are needing a quick little refresher, if you didn't watch the video from yesterday's lesson, I will give you a little hint. This is an equation. These are inequality signs. All right, guys, so we need to like transition from food to algebra in the room chat, okay? Yeah, Ava, good. That's very good. Okay, Richard, that's true. So an inequality isn't necessarily equal, okay? It could be if it has the equal sign under it, okay? But if it doesn't, then it's not equal. You're right. So we're going to be talking today about inequalities. And we're going to talk about, okay, what is the difference between an inequality and an equation? So all of last week, we were working on solving equations. Those are equal signs. This week, starting yesterday, we're working on inequalities. Yeah, Stormy, that's a good point. Stormy just said an equation has one answer. Exactly. So let's go ahead and take a look. What's the difference? Solving for an equation means you have one solution or answer. For example, if x plus 2 equals 4, then x equals 2. 2 is the only number that can make that equation true. So equation, one answer. When you're solving for an inequality, that means we're going to have a set of numbers as our solution. So for example, x plus 2 is less than 4. So when I solve this for x, I'm going to get x is less than 2. So any number less than 2 would make this inequality a true statement. So I could have -2, I could have -100, I could have -1 billion. Okay, so when we're solving for inequalities, that means we're going to have a set of numbers. So what's the plan for today? We just reviewed our vocabulary terms. We're going to talk about solving inequalities. And then at the end, if you have not done your Class Kick homework from yesterday, or if you did it and did not get a great grade on it, I'm going to have you go to Class Kick and redo that homework or do the homework. And once you feel confident with the homework, then I'm going to send you to the course to take your quiz that's due today. So today we're going to solve multi-step inequalities and graph their solutions on a number line. You will have to graph a solution on the in your homework and on the written part of your test that's coming up. Okay, so it's very important. So let's go over. I'm going to open the chat. Can y'all tell me some things that you already know about inequalities? What do we know? Oh, that's good, Angel. So that's really good. So for solving equations, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. That's good. That's really good. It's very important. What else? Good job, Zachary. Good. So what we know is that we can solve equations and inequalities the same way. So, okay, so we know how to roughly solve it. What do we want to know? Well, something that I would like for y'all to know is to be able, so KWL means what I know, what I already know, that's the K. W is what I want to know. And then L is what you have learned at the end of the class. So what you want to know, what I would like for you to know is when we have to switch the inequality sign. And I think that a lot of us are not familiar with graphing the solution. Yeah, good. So we're going to talk about how to graph the solution and when we have to switch our inequality. Okay. Sure, Zachary, what's up?
So I learned about this last year and I think the year before, so I already know how to graph the solution.
Okay,
But
awesome.
I'm still having trouble learning. I'm still having trouble when to know how to flip the sign. So
Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to go over that. We're getting ready to start. So hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions. All right, so let's talk about some graphing inequalities. If you do not have something to write with, I would like for you to go get a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, because it's really important that you know how to read our inequality signs, which are these up here. Okay, so this sign, this first one is read less than. So for instance, if I wrote 1 and 3, this would say 1 is less than 3. Okay, so we have to understand how to read these signs so that we know which how to graph and which way to shade our solution. Okay, so it's really important that we remember how to read these. Okay, so this first one is less than. When we graph an inequality and the sign is just less than, we will have an open circle. Okay, I'm going to just write that in here in case you're like, I don't really know what that thing means. This is an open circle. If we have this next inequality, less than or equal to, we're going to have a closed circle. So the closed circle means that it includes that number that it is on. Okay, so this is a closed circle. And then we have, next we have greater than. So you would read your number on the left. So 5 maybe is greater than 4. What we're going to see a lot in solving inequalities is like x is greater than a number. So x is greater than 1. And then the last one is greater than or equal to. And again, when you have the equal to sign underneath your inequality, you're going to close your circle. So let me show you what I mean when I say open versus closed circle. I'm going to read this first one here, which is number 1. And it says n is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do is whatever your number is on the right, mine is 0. I'm going to draw a circle around 0 on my number line. Now, this is where we get these little open and closed circles. This sign has an equal to sign underneath it. So that means I'm going to color in this circle. We're going to have a closed circle. Our solution set could include 0. So if I put 0 in for n, I would have 0 is less than or equal to 0. 0 is not less than 0, but it is equal to 0. Okay. So now I look at my inequality. N is less than or equal to 0. So I want to shade all of the numbers on the number line. This is my number line that are less than 0. So I'm going to shade into the negative numbers. So you'll just draw a little colored line or a darker line to shade either to the left or to the right. Let's do another one together. P, this is number 2, P is less than -2. Okay, so I'm going to draw a circle around -2. I'm going to leave this circle open because of this inequality sign. My inequality sign is strictly less than. So if I plug in the number -2 and say -2 is less than -2, that is not a true statement. Okay, -2 is equal to -2, but it's not less than. So I'm going to leave that sign open. And now I want to shade all of the numbers for P that would be less than -2. So again, I'm going to shade to the left. All right, I'm going to open up the chat, and I want to know if I have 2 volunteers that would like to graph these, number 3 and number 4. If you would like to volunteer to graph that, please raise your hand. Awesome, thank you. For the rest of you, if you're not graphing it, Mia, I'm going to have you graph number 3, and Amara, I'm going to have you graph number 4. If you're not graphing it, what I want you to do is put in the chat. So you're going to put, like if I was doing number 2 in the chat, I would put open circle at -2, shade to the left. Actually, I'm going to have Amara do number 4, Angel. Sorry, I didn't realize you guys had the same initials. But then you can do the next ones because we're going to have some more, okay? All right, so let's see. Amara and Mia, you guys should both have whiteboard tools now to go ahead and start graphing. So if you are in, if you're not doing these on the board, I just want you to type in the room chat. You would say like close circle at 0, shade to the left or shade to the right. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Mia, good job. Thank you so much. Amara, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mia drew a closed circle at 1 because we want T is greater than or equal to 1. So because it's greater than or equal to, she drew a closed circle. That's perfect. And then we want to shade all the numbers bigger than 1. So she shaded to the right. Very good. All right, so number 4 is a little bit tricky. And Amara, you did a perfect job putting an open circle at -3. Exactly right. So let's read this. It says -3 is greater than x. So if -3 is greater than x, then x, we want x to be all numbers that are smaller than -3. So that was kind of a tricky one. We're actually going to shade the other way. Yeah, we're going to draw an open circle at 3, just like you did. And then we're going to shade to the left. So not necessarily, Jonathan, because if you look at number 4, the arrow was going to the right, but because X was on the right, it's not the same. So if you have your variable on the left-hand side of your inequality sign, then you can use that like rule. I did not flip the sign. I only flipped it because I was rewriting it. So when you flip the order, you have to also take the sign with you. But I just did that to show Jonathan that if your variable is on the left-hand side of your inequality, then you can just shade whichever way it's pointing. You wouldn't normally flip the order. I was just trying to show him. He was saying that wherever the symbol, the inequality is pointing, that's where we shade. And I was telling him that only works. It only works if your variable's on the left. No, so it being the 3 being negative has nothing to do with our shading going to the left. When we read this inequality, this says -3 is greater than X. And remember, we're trying to shade anything that would have make our statement true. So let's say you decided on this one, you said, oh, I'm going to shade to the right. So that means that would include the number 1. Let's just pretend. Okay. So if you came over here and plugged in 1 for X, this says -3 is greater than 1. Is that a true statement? No, -3 is not bigger than 1. So we know it can't include 1. So we would want to shade the other way. So you can still check yourself. You can pick a number that is in your shaded solution. So if I was looking at number 3 and I wanted to try this number 2, I plug in 2 for T. So 2 is greater than or equal to 1. Yes, it is. So I know I've shaded the right way. Yeah, good. Okay, so now we're going to talk about solving inequalities. So what we're going to do now is, instead of just graphing the inequality, we're going to solve them and then graph. Solving inequalities is the same exact way, the same exact method and steps for solving equations, with one exception. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you're going to flip your inequality symbol. So let me give you an example here. This first problem says -4 times X is less than or equal to 16. Okay, so I'm solving for X. So I'm going to find my variable. Here it is. What's happening to X? It's being multiplied by a -4. So to undo that, I'm going to divide by -4. So -4 divided by -4 becomes 1. So we just get 1x. Now I have to flip my sign. So now it's going to go the other way. 16 divided by -4 is -4. So my solution set is X is greater than or equal to -4. Sure, Angel, give me just a second to get to the next problem. So I'm going to put -4 here, and I'm going to go ahead and graph my solution. So I would have a closed circle at -4, and I want all of the x's that are greater than -4. So I'm going to shade to the right. All right. So what happened to 16? 16 got divided by -4. So this is 16 divided by -4. All right, Angel, I'll have you do this one on the left, and then you're going to graph your solution down at the bottom. Does anybody want to try, Zachary, do you want to try this one on the right? No? Okay, so let's see. How about Richard, do you want to try the one on the right? We'll have you do this one. All right, let me give y'all whiteboard tools. If you're not doing one on the board, just make sure that you're doing it on your own paper. So we're going to go ahead and solve these. Yeah, good, Angel. So if you'll write out your steps for me, and then we're going to graph our solutions. So both of these we're trying to solve for, the one on the left is for y, the one on the right is for z. Good. Angel, will you write your steps out like underneath up here? Will you tell me how you got to that answer? So, Richard, 1 second. Are you adding 9? Hold on. Okay, so Richard, we want to find z. Okay, so when I look at this, I'm going to ask myself, okay, what's happening to z? Oh, you're adding 4. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were adding 9. Let's go ahead. Let's leave the 4 for right now. And the first thing that I want you to do is we have our z, okay? We want to get rid of addition and subtraction first. So let's go ahead and add 11 to both sides. So go ahead and add 11 first, and then you can keep solving, okay? Good, Angel. And then don't forget to graph your solution at the bottom so I can kind of help you get started. Yep, so I see your solution that you wrote out. That's perfect. But now I want you to graph it. Yeah, good. Okay, good, Richard. So you'll get 16 is greater than or equal to negative 4 times z. So what's going to be your next step? So actually, Richard, hold on 1 second. So remember, this is negative 4 times z. So how do we undo multiplication? We should probably divide, right? So this is negative 4 times z. So what we're going to do is divide by negative 4. I can't tell what you're writing there, but hold on. Minus 4. Wait, what are you doing? What are you writing there, Richard? So let's do like this. This says negative 4z, negative 4 times z. Okay, so we want to divide everything on both sides by a negative 4. You don't have to do long division. You can actually type this in your calculator. So just type in 16 divided by negative 4. And you're going to get negative 4. Since we divided by a negative, we're going to flip our sign the other way. So our answer is that negative 4 is less than or equal to z. So that means for my z values, I want z values that are greater than negative 4. Greater than or equal to. So Richard, can you go ahead and graph that one for me? Good, Angel. You did great. Good job. So y'all check yours with Angels. You should get y is greater than or equal to 18. So you're going to have a closed. That's okay, Angel. You're good. We're going to have a closed circle at 18, and you're going to shade to the right. And for the second one, you're going to have a closed circle at negative 4, and you're also going to shade to the right. Very good. Okay. y to the right, because if you look where my z is here, the blue, the value for z has to be greater than -4. So we read this left to right. -4 is less than or equal to z. So -4 has to be smaller than z. So therefore, z has to be bigger than -4. Okay, if I don't get a different volunteer, Angel, I will. You can go again. Zachary, I flipped the sign because in this step right here, after I added 11, I got 16 is greater than or equal to -4 times z. And then I divided by -4. This sign right here means divide. It looks like a fraction, but it means divide. So since I divided by a -4 or a negative number, I had to flip it. Okay, you knew that. So what was your question then? Sure. Let me find your name. Okay, Zachary, what's your question?
Okay, so what I was gonna say was, I was like, wait, when did you flip it? Because I kind of lost track. So whenever it doesn't have just like a solid A, like X or Y or 0 or anything like that. So because on the left you had just the Y by itself, you just leave it there. You wouldn't flip. But since you had to divide, you would flip.
It's not that I just divided. So if you multiply or divide by a negative number.
Oh.
So on the
Okay.
left, I did not flip it because I just subtracted. So when you add or subtract, you don't flip your sign.
Okay.
When you multiply and divide, you don't flip your sign. But if you multiply or divide by a negative number, then you flip your sign. So it's not just division. Okay. You don't flip the sign every time you divide. You only flip the sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number. That's a good question. Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, so let's look at this next one. Does anybody, Adrena, you can do one. Does anybody that has not had a chance to do one yet want to do one? I'm going to make sure everyone gets a chance if they would like to. Okay, Zach, awesome. Yeah, Adrena, you can do the first one. All right, Zachary, you can do the second one. And then everyone else, you should be doing this on your own. So Anya, you're right. You would you would subtract 3 first, and you have to do it to both sides. Exactly. So Amara, that's a good question. You're going to subtract 3 first. Hey, Zachary, before you do that, remember that this, fraction here, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So if we just multiply by 4 on both sides, we're still going to be left with this 3. So we want to go ahead and multiply both sides by 4/3 because that's going to totally get rid of the 3/4. So go ahead and multiply it by 4/3 on the other side as well. So you'll multiply by 4/3 over here. Okay, good. Adrena, you're doing a good job. So now you subtracted 3 from both sides. So you've got -g is less than 6. But remember, we don't want to have -g or any negative variable. So we want to go ahead and get rid of that negative. So we're going to go ahead and divide by a -1 on both sides. So go ahead, Adrena, and divide by -1 on both sides. Good. Yes, good. And then you're going to flip your sign. Exactly. And then let's go ahead and graph. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do on this one over here on the right-hand side is when we multiply by the reciprocal, okay, these are going to cancel out. So we're left with x is greater than. Over here, we're going to, when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So 3 times 4 would be 12. 1 times 3 would be 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify that. So 12 divided by 3 would be 4. So I want all x values that are greater than 4. Yes, good, Adrena, you did great. Why do they cancel each other out? So, Richard, they cancel each other out because if I multiply straight across the top and bottom, 4 times 3 would be 12. 3 times 4 would be 12. And 12 divided by 12 is 1x, or just x. Why am I multiplying 4/3 instead of 3/4? I am multiplying 3/4. I'm multiplying 3/4 by 4/3. So the first thing we have to do is find our variable, x. And we ask ourselves, what is happening to our variable? So this is 3/4 x. I have to figure out how can I get rid of that 3/4? What can I do to make that go away? It's multiplying x. So when we multiply by a fraction, the opposite of multiplying by a fraction would be to divide. But we can't really write 3/4 divided by 3/4. So multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing by a fraction. So I take the reciprocal, which means instead of writing 3/4, I'm going to write 4/3. Because when I multiply those two together, they cancel out to give me 1. So I do that on both sides because that's the rules of solving inequalities and equations. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. Okay, so let's check our graphing over here for Adrena. So she subtracted 3 from both sides. She got negative g is less than 6. We don't want to have that negative variable. So she went ahead and divided by a -1 on both sides. So then she got positive g is greater than, she had to flip her sign because she'd multiplied or divided by a negative number. So g is greater than -6. So she put an open circle at -6. And she shaded to the right because we want all numbers that are greater than -6. And then Zachary, when he graphed his, the final answer was x is greater than 4. So he put a closed circle at 4 because it's greater than or equal to, closed circle. And we want all values for x that are greater than 4. So he shaded to the right. All right, so let's go ahead and we've got 2 more. Is there anyone that wants to volunteer that has not volunteered yet? Anybody that has not had a chance to do one that would like to? Okay, so Angel, why don't you do this one over here? Angel, you've already gone. Thank you. And then Zachary, you can go ahead and do this one on the right. Okay, so the first thing that both of them are going to do is you need to distribute the number outside your parentheses to both numbers inside the parentheses. Good job, Zachary. You're right. Good. Yes, Amara, you're right. That's exactly right. So, Angel, before you do that, remember what I had just said? You need to go ahead and distribute first. So the number outside your parentheses 4 has to get distributed to both the numbers inside the parentheses. So go ahead and multiply. Zach, good job. So first we're going to do 4. Okay, that's fine. You can do 4 times negative 7. Yep, perfect. Negative 28. Here, Zach, I can erase for you. There you go. You don't have to scribble. Perfect. Good job. Hold on. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. But remember that right now you're hold on, Angel. Hold on. You're subtracting 10, but we don't have just regular 10. Angel, stop writing for a second, okay? Because that's not the right step, okay? Just hold on one second. You're subtracting 10, but we want to subtract 10 in. So we can only, you were right to subtract 10, but it has to be 10 in. Okay, so then when you subtract 10 in from both sides, you have to subtract it from the 20 in, right? Like we can't take 10 ins from 28 because 28 doesn't have any ins. So now go ahead and keep writing out your problem. Okay, good, Zachary. I'm going to erase one of these 5s because I think it's a little confusing. Good, Zachary. Okay, so if y'all have finished the second problem, you can take a look at Zachary's and check yours with his. If you have any questions, I can open the chat. If you have any questions for me or for Zachary. So we added 3 to negative 18. So negative 18 plus 3 is negative 15. All right, so Angel, I appreciate you doing that, but we have to make sure that we show all our, okay, that's fine. So let's go ahead and work on our steps here. All right, so 20 in minus 10 in leaves us with 10 in. So let's rewrite that. So 10 in minus 28 is greater than or equal to 2. It is hard to write, yes. It's okay. All right, so now I know what I'm solving for. I'm solving for n. So I want to undo anything that's being added or subtracted to my variable. So I'm going to undo this minus 28. So I'm going to add 28 to both sides. So now I'm going to get 10n is greater than or equal to 30. Divide everything by 10. So n is greater than or equal to 3. And then when Angel graphed it, she put a closed circle at 3 and shaded to the right. All right. So I want to do a deepen problem, like a one that requires a little more steps. So this might be a question you would see on the STAR test. And it says, which graph shows the solution to 2x minus 10 is greater than or equal to 4? So this is two parts. First, we have to go ahead and solve, right? We need to know the solution. So we have to solve it ourselves and then pick the right graph. Okay, so the first thing then that I'm going to do is add 10 to both sides. So 2x is greater than or equal to 14. I will divide by 2. So x is greater than or equal to 7. Alan, that's a really good point that you just made. A and B aren't options. Why did you say that? I love that you noticed that right away. Tell me why you noticed that right away. Now go ahead and type in your answer in the poll. Yeah, good. Exactly. Y'all good. Because they're open circles. And so right away when I look at my problem, I can see that this specifically says greater than or equal to. So since it's greater than or equal to, that means I will not choose any of the ones that have an open circle. That's very good. Good job. So, Richard, you actually can drag the poll thing around on your screen to put it wherever works best for you. Good. So most of you are choosing the letter C, which is correct. So we want all of the values for 7 that are greater than 7. So we're going to shade it to the right. Very good. Okay, let me go to our exit ticket. So what I want you to do is you are going to send me a private message, or you can send it in the room chat if you'd like. Just tell me the difference between solving equations and solving inequalities. And then when you're finished, if you have not done your homework in ClassKick, I want you to go log into ClassKick and do that right now. I'm going to give you a few minutes. And then if you did do it, but you didn't get a great grade on it, good, Alan. If you didn't get a grade on it that you're happy with, I want you to go back in and make some adjustments and then raise your hand again so that I can go back in and check your work. And then you have a quiz today over solving inequalities. So once you feel confident working on the practice problems and you feel like you can solve inequalities pretty accurately, then you're going to go ahead and log in and take your quiz. Remember, you get 3 attempts, but if you're still not happy with your grade after 2 attempts, I would not use your 3rd attempt until you ask some clarifying questions. So Adelina, that's a good observation. So the biggest differences we have between solving equations, I'm going to write it over here, equations and then inequalities. Equations, we're going to have one solution. Inequalities, we're going to have a set of numbers. Angel, what do you need help with? You don't know which quiz it is? 1.07. And then also with inequalities, you're going to flip your sign when you divide, multiply or divide by a negative, and then you also will graph your solution. Yeah, good, Liv. Exactly. All right, so if you don't have any questions, y'all are free to go. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.